Good evening, Bahamas. On the broadcast tonight. On the defense, the tourism minister slams critics who say the Free National Movement government has no real plan for the country. Plus, a human rights activist speaks on the MINNIS administration's immigration plan. And a number of celebrities on Paradise Island to celebrate the relaunch of the COVE.
Is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news, the weekend edition, and thanks for joining us. I'm Andrew Knowles. Topping news. It was a star-studded night at the COVE Atlantis as guests celebrated the relaunch of the 600-suite luxury hotel. The brand we've grown to know and love celebrated a slight change this past weekend with an impressive guest list of A-list celebrities and locals who showed up just to have a good time. Atlantis' Senior Vice President of Public Relations, Ed Fields, said the relaunch is about creating a new and unique atmosphere for guests at the property.
But the main thing is what we're trying to do is infuse more and more the Bahamian experience, okay? Not just installations and restaurants, but the whole attitude of trying to get our associates to be who they is, as Pam Burnside would say, right? Just let it hang free, be who you are, and welcome people in so that when they come to the Bahamas and they come to the COVE, the experience is unique to here.
The COVE opened its doors in 2007. Since then, it's become the resting place for some of the world's most familiar faces. Fields explained what they want guests to take away.
Look, when the Bahamas started out many years ago in the tourism industry, a lot of people in the Caribbean, for instance, thought tourism was a joke. Now they've all decided this is the way to go. So that means you have to create a differentiation. You have to have some sort of uniqueness, some sort of authenticity. And when people go places, they don't go places for buildings. They go for experiences. And so what we're trying to do is to I shouldn't say create, because we're not trying to create experiences. Those experiences exist. But we're trying to resurrect, nourish, nurture those Bahamian experiences so that when people come here, that's what they take when they leave. So when they leave, they have a memory of something, and that memory brings them back.
Our Kyle Joaquin will have a full recap of the COVE's relaunch in tomorrow night's newscast. Well, the government's deadline for all illegal migrants to obtain some sort of status or be deported is causing a bit of concern among the Haitian community. Human rights activist LOUBY Georges says while there's nothing wrong with the government enforcing the law, it's how officials plan on doing it that's concerning. With more, here's our Kyle Joaquin.
The issue comes in for me and a few human rights activists that I'm connected with is that the language that was utilized, aggressively pursue. We don't know what that means.
George says it's really just the wording. Just this past Thursday in Parliament, Prime Minister MINNIS doubled down on his warning to illegals that they will be aggressively pursued if they don't sort out their paperwork or voluntarily leave the country by December 31st. George is a Bahamian of Haitian descent, feels whatever is done should be done humanely.
And we're living in a time in a country where we have evidential proof where there have been abuses in the past. The immigration officers abusing immigrants, in particular Haitians. So now when the Prime Minister utilizes such strong language, what message or how will all of the immigration officers, receive this message? We're not saying that the immigration department is bad. We're not saying that every immigration officer is guilty and, doesn't like foreigners and will abuse them, but we've seen where it has happened.
The Prime Minister recently visited a church in a Haitian community where he said the government's new immigration plan isn't targeting Haitians, but all illegals. When the previous government conducted its immigration exercise in November of 2014, the Bahamas caught a lot of bad press after images of children being taken out of homes went viral.
We've seen where it has happened, and we would not like to repeat those incidences. But when you utilize those strong languages like that, it's scary for human rights activists. It's scary for the immigrants who are human beings who should be arrested in a humanely fashion and process, and due process should take place. The rule of law should prevail. So we don't know. So that really was the main concern for me.
He said there is a misconception when it comes to Haitian nationals living in the Bahamas and their thoughts on this new deadline.
contrary to popular belief, I and a lot of Haitians and persons from the immigrant community that I'm connected with have no real issues with the deadline, because as the minister responsible for immigration would have said, if you're here residing illegally, you shouldn't have been here in the first place. And Haitians, have always said they don't have an issue with persons being arrested, processed, and repatriated.
The government has announced that it will expedite the process for migrants who make the necessary and proper applications. And with this deadline just over a month away, Georgia said there's now an urgency for more and more migrants to get their documents in order.
Me ever since the announcement, my phone has been blowing up, messages on Facebook, messages on WhatsApp, where people are trying to, get themselves together. So I see a major push in the Haitian community with persons trying to find ways to regularize themselves.
Government has yet to give a fully detailed plan as to how they will carry out this exercise. Reporting for our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Minister of Tourism Dionisio de Aguilar is defending the Free National Movement's administration's agenda and slamming comments that the party came into office without a plan to successfully run the country. Giorgio Bain tells us more.
According to de Aguilar, those comments are absolute rubbish, and the government is focused on executing plans and not just planning. Opposition leader Philip Brave Davis has been vocal about the MINNIS administration, characterizing the FNM as a party which has failed to offer a clear plan to tackle critical issues facing the nation. Criticism has also mounted concerning the fight against crime and the creation of jobs in the Bahamian economy. However, according to de Aguilar, voters have had enough of big plans that lack execution under the previous administration.
That's absolute rubbish. I mean, the Progressive Liberal Party had tons of plans, but they could not execute. Okay? They had big visions. Every single one of their major plans ended in financial disaster. So having a plan or having big plans and with the inability to execute, I think the Bahamian economy, I think the country needs a period of, okay, we have had lots of new things. Let's absorb them. Let's get them running properly.
According to de Aguilar, the public treasury is a mess today because of the PLP's grand plans.
Having a big plan and with the inability to execute, it makes no sense. The treasury is suffering today because of those types of plans. So let's calm ourselves down. Let's take stock. Let's see what's working, what isn't working. Let's focus on delivery.
He urges everyone to calm down and trust the government's progress.
Don't worry about the ideas. Let's focus on what we have and delivering it properly. Let's make everything work. Let's make sure our product is decent, respectable. Make sure we're attracting our foreign visitors to our country. I always go back to my background. Superwash. It's a simple business. What I do is I execute flawlessly. That's what I focus on. Ain't no big plan. I had no big plan in a long time. But I just execute. And that's what we got to focus more on. Instead of coming up with these big plans. They're all into these big plans that they can't deliver on. Enough of that.
Reporting for our News Weekend Edition, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Well, leader of the Democratic National Alliance, Christopher Mortimer, is questioning if the MINNIS administration actually has a plan. In an interview with our News, Mortimer said the only thing he could applaud the MINNIS administration for is the pursuit of anti-corruption measures, which he claims came from the DNA's Vision 2017.
I applaud them on the corruption stance that they've undertaken. You would have noted in our Vision 2017 and beyond that corruption was something that had to be dealt with. We cannot be a successful country with the level of corruption that we have, and it needs to be and must be stamped out. So I congratulate them, and I want them to keep that in mind as they continue to govern.
Mortimer says the FNM doesn't seem to have an actual plan.
I haven't seen much else that they've done. I know they have the tricky thing of getting to know what's been going on. I think we have a country where the budget is a mess. I mean, crime's still out of control. You still ain't got no national health insurance plan. We have no money, can't do anything. Teachers can't get paid. Nothing has happened.
According to Mortimer, he had expected to see more from the MINNIS administration 6 months into its term.
The worst thing is we don't even know where the country is going. There is no vision as to what they are trying to accomplish. And so it's the only thing I've seen, other than the corruption stamps, is at least we ain't like them. And that's not what we voted for. Yes, we were sick of the PLP. And I think if you ask PLPs, they were sick of the PLP. But the reality is, being a leader of the country or being a government in charge, your job is to lead the country to something. And if you're not leading it to something, you are no different.
We'll take a break here, but still ahead tonight. Lights, camera, action. The AIDS Foundation hosts its annual Red Ribbon Ball. That story and more when our news returns.